So thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm honored to have the privilege to speak in front of such an esteemed group of drug development and innovation leaders. So just by ways of quick introduction, my name is Noah Ho, Director of Digital Process Innovation at Novartis within our clinical development business vertical. So just a quick introduction to our team. So our team sits at a unique intersection of life sciences and technology, and we're comprised of professionals that span disciplines that include innovation management, data science, AI, machine learning, as well as product, program, and change management. So just collectively, our remit is to drive an integrated AI strategy that is designed to solve our development business unit's most complex business problems. And we accomplish this by managing a curated portfolio of AI programs, as well as a central hub of specialized resources. And under this model, we partner directly with cross-functional development teams in order to identify, design, and de-risk AI innovations through a combination of our subject matter expertise, as well as our connections to the external innovation landscape. So that's just a little bit about what we do. So to kick things off today, I want to level set on what is Novartis' ultimate ambition through our application of AI. As you can imagine, for an organization focused primarily on discovering, developing, and commercializing novel drugs, we're certainly not pursuing AI for AI's sake. But what we do recognize is that AI sits at the forefront of modern innovation and is poised to help tackle some of humanity's greatest challenges. So with this in mind, we're actively working to integrate AI across the entire organization, and our end goal is really quite simple. It's to develop better medicines faster so they can reach patients sooner. And that is our ambition with AI. So in order to accomplish this mission, we recognize that AI needs to be a foundation fueling our focused innovative medicine strategy across our 4 core therapeutic areas, as well as our drug technology platforms. Philosophically, Novartis is embracing this concept of augmentation. And when I say augmentation, we mean that we're treating machine artificial intelligence as an enhancement and augmentation of our natural human intelligence of our development leaders across the organization. If I use an example, and you break down the idea of a clinical trial, you can abstractly think of it as the sum total of thousands upon thousands of individual decisions being made by a diverse group of individuals. Now imagine if you can now augment the performance of any one given individual or team and elevate that decision-making speed and quality to the performance of the best teams. This is where we believe that there'll be the most truly transformative impact through this collective upskilling and enhancement of decision-making. And that's the philosophy with which we're embracing AI at Novartis. So coming back to this idea of accelerating development cycle times, which is one of our primary objectives, we're pursuing this through a variety of initiatives, both tech and non-tech related. But in the domain of AI, we have set a fairly ambitious goal for ourselves of accelerating development cycle time by at least 6 months in a way that's directly attributable to our AI efforts. And we have strong conviction that this is possible through the ever-growing body of evidence that points to the benefits of integrating AI into clinical trials. So I'm just going to take a quick moment, and please indulge me while I take us on a little bit of a detour, but one that I hope will offer some unconventional perspective as to how we're approaching our application of AI at Novartis. So up here, what we have is what I like to call the innovator's favorite chart. It's the technology adoption S-curve. And for any innovation or any technology folks like myself, you may rarely go more than a few weeks at a time without seeing some version of this, usually in some vendor or consultant's presentation. And it's very common, the talk track is stay grounded in where we are on the journey and to look beyond the hype. When I look at this, what I see is if you take the S-curve at face value, we're on pace to now enter what may prove to be the most dynamic phase of our AI adoption journey yet. Just look at how much steeper the slope is that it's yet to come. So how do we best prepare our organization and ourselves to navigate a period of truly dynamic and rapid change and all the associated uncertainty that surrounds it? So this leads me down a train of thought as to thinking, well, are there any historical analogs that we could look to that might yield some lessons on how best to position us both organizationally and individually to navigate a period of rapid change? And this is where I'll take us on just a little bit of a detour, so bear with me. So this train of thought led me all the way back to my high school biology classroom. And a little fun fact about me is that I'm a huge fan of evolutionary biology, so much so, in fact, that I even have a favorite evolutionary biologist, Dr. Stephen Jay Gould. So in 1972, Dr. Gould and his colleague Niles Eldredge pioneered the theory of punctuated equilibrium, which very simply states that evolutionary change happens very frequently in rapid bursts, sandwiched by periods of relative stasis and stability. Now, at the time, this theory ran contrary to the prevailing theory of Darwinian gradualism, which states that change happens slowly, steadily, and incrementally over time. But what Dr. Gould and Eldredge found in the fossil records that led them to this conclusion was that when you looked at a number of different species, in the fossil records, you'd see that they would go millions and millions of years with relatively little change, and then there'd be a rapid eruption of new species, usually triggered by something along the lines of a perturbation or an insult to those species' environment. And then that would again follow a period of relative stasis. Since then, what we've come to understand is that while this may seem to be a contrasting theory to Darwinian gradualism, it actually ended up being a complement to this theory and refined our understanding of evolutionary change and gradualism, because punctuated equilibrium offered a dimension of variable rate of change that gradualism did not account for. Okay, so tangent over, but you may be wondering, what the heck does this evolutionary biology lesson have to do with how to make better drugs faster using AI? Well, if you look at the two charts here, you may notice some uncanny resemblance. What billions of years of evolutionary biology has been able to teach us is that there is one hallmark trait that best positions an individual, a species, an organization, a colony, whatever it is, in order to navigate periods of rapid change. And this trait is also probably considered the winningest trait in evolutionary history and the reason why we're all here today. It's adaptability. Adaptability is the single most critical factor that an organization or an individual needs in order to prepare ourselves for the period of rapid upcoming change if you follow along the technology change and adoption S-curve. So with this in mind, Novartis is embracing this idea of a truly adaptive AI strategy, which I'll lead into next. But this adaptive AI strategy is being embraced not only at the organizational level, which I'll touch on, but also at the individual level. So we all saw earlier today during the keynote this quote that gets thrown around a lot: AI will not replace humans, but humans who adapt and augment their natural human intelligence with machine artificial intelligence will be the ones to replace those who don't. So with this in mind, Novartis is embracing an adaptive AI strategy towards unlocking this next era of AI-enhanced clinical trials. So up here you see an overview of how we're applying AI across the R&D continuum. Obviously, a lot of very exciting work happening in our biomedical research unit with our high-profile partnerships such as isomorphic labs, but that's a different breakout track. Today we're going to focus on the right-hand side of this. So up here you see the different business processes and domains that Novartis has decided to prioritize as our development AI pillars of our strategy under our AI trial transformation program. So these prioritized domains span clinical, operational, and submission-based processes. But what might not be immediately apparent when looking at this is what exactly about these areas that we're focusing on, what makes your approach so adaptive. So there's a couple key principles underlying our approach. Number one, and I really love that Andy, who's one of our technology partners at the end of his previous session, closed with this idea of building in increments that are individually valuable but collectively transformative. We at Novartis are choosing to tackle our domains and business processes in a very modular fashion, and it's this modularity that enables us to be flexible and adaptive to real-time change. So if I were to use an analogy, if you think of a clinical trial as an incredibly complex network of interdependent processes, what we're doing is taking that network of processes, distilling them down to those that are most foundational to what we do, a lot of which are shown up here, and then breaking those end-to-end processes down into their modular increments that in and of themselves are individually valuable. But this is not being done in a short-sighted fashion. We have the foresight to plan and create paths forward so that all of these modules can be pulled together and integrated into that something that is collectively transformative. The second principle underlying our adaptive strategy is, much like any financial or biopharma drug portfolio, we're maintaining a well-diversified but well-curated portfolio of AI innovations. So what this means is that we're making sure that there's a healthy balance between highly ambitious moonshots, counterbalanced with some of these low-hanging fruits, things that have high probability of success, but are probably unlikely to make truly meaningful difference to the organization. To this latter point, though, I want to underscore the criticality of these low-hanging fruits, because while they're probably not the sexiest programs and projects to be undertaking, they play a critical role in the innovation ecosystem in the sense that they continuously provide regular, tangible proof points and evidence that is required to continue to generate support, endorsement, and ultimately resourcing to throw towards these ambitious moonshots. It's kind of the C-suite version of sometimes what I tell my nieces and nephews. If we can't trust you to get the little things right, how can we trust you to get the big things right? It's the same idea. In maintaining this well-curated portfolio of AI innovations, we're also embracing this idea of being really laser-focused on those use cases and programs and projects that are most value-added, and being ruthless in trimming those that are not. So some of you may have seen a report in the Wall Street Journal a few weeks back outlining how J&J has pivoted its AI strategy after several years of experimentation and about 1,000 different use cases. What they came to realize was that about 10 to 15% of those use cases were driving 80% of the value. So we were seeing the Pareto principle, or the 20-80 rule, playing out in real life in this instance. Us at Novartis, we also embrace a similar mindset that we are quick to cut things that are not adding value, and finding those things that are adding value, and then making sure that those things that are adding value are resourced and scaled commensurately. And then the last piece I'll touch on about our adaptive AI strategy is our fostering of an entire ecosystem of technology partners, without which none of what we do would be possible. We recognize that AI, the advent of AI, represents a fundamental inflection point in the convergence of our two sectors between life sciences and technology. You do not want to find yourself in a position where you're developing a software development organization inside of a drug development organization. That's not the model that's going to work. I think most of us recognize that, but it does require very close collaboration and partnership to allow the drug developers to be good at what they're good at, the technology companies to be good at what they're good at, and to work together to create something that's greater than the sum of their parts. So with the rest of my time, I want to today highlight focusing on that first principle, right? This idea of building in increments that are individually valuable and collectively transformative. So I want to give an example of a prioritized area that we're treating as an individually valuable increment. And then I want to use that to build into how we pull that together into that something that is collectively transformative. So in the theme of building in increments that are individually valuable, what we have here is an illustration of our protocol design, our AI-enhanced protocol design efforts. So what we have here, we recognize that the protocol design, AI-enhanced protocol design, is a fairly mature and well-established use case at this point in the AI-enhanced development landscape. For those of you unfamiliar, the protocol design process, it sits at the very head of the clinical trial process, and it's often very complex, highly manual, highly iterative, and requires extensive time and planning. And it has a ton of implications to the downstream strategic planning of the clinical trial. So what we've done is, and again, keeping in this theme of enhancing the decision-making capabilities of our teams and our associates, we developed a platform called Protocol AI, which supports our protocol designers and authors by enabling them with AI-enabled insights and recommendations that are derived from a blend of proprietary data, publicly available data, and third-party licensed data. And it's through this mechanism that we're aiming to speed up and enhance the protocol design process, all with a couple different objectives. First objective is speeding up the in-process protocol design, because it creates a one-to-one implication to the overall clinical development timeline. 1 month taken off protocol design process is 1 month taken off the end-to-end clinical development pathway. Similarly, the better that we can plan these trials up front. It's been shown time and time again that trials that use AI in the planning process tend to finish ahead of schedule. So there's all the downstream strategic benefits conferred to the overall development plan by enhancing the strategic planning up front with our Protocol AI platform. So, and I should also mention that our technology partners, such as AWS, have been critical in standing up our Protocol AI platform. So we relied on them for a variety of algorithm industrialization efforts, as well as support and some Gen AI solutioning to help us pull through the entire end-to-end protocol. So if that's an example of something that's individually valuable on its own, what is an example of something that's collectively transformative? So it's with this that I'm very excited to introduce something that we're actively working on, and we're very excited about the prospect of. And this is something that we're working on in close partnership with both faculty and Andy's team, as well as AWS, and it's our intelligent decision system. So the intelligent decision system, or IDS, at its core, is essentially it's a computational twin that allows a software-based simulation of the entire end-to-end clinical trial operational plan. So what this enables is, if you've ever used a what-if analysis in Excel, you can think of it as a very, very supercharged version of that. So this is meant to enable and enhance the decision-making of a variety of different cross-functional teams. And the outputs of this, or the kind of the processes that enables, are twofold. It enables both scenario planning and scenario optimization. So through a predefined set of user inputs, you can toggle different scenarios and see how the sequencing of various clinical trial milestones and implications to overall end-to-end trial timelines, costs, probability of success, just to name a few of the parameters that are available. So you can toggle all these various scenarios, but then also the intuitive next step is you can also ultimately identify the optimal operational plan for the clinical trial, and this is what we might call the critical path. So now you can better plan for all these various parameters, but then also more quickly align your teams around a single unified critical path that will kind of be the marching orders for the rest of the clinical development plan. So at its heart, our IDS system is a set of interconnected machine learning models, and the way that this constitutes the collectively transformative thing is it pulls together outputs from the other priority domains and programs. So everything from protocol design to site selection, patient finding, ClinOps next spec action. All of these outputs and constructs are represented as a subset of the inputs that go into the IDS system. So, and this has all been fundamentally enabled by our close collaboration with both AWS, who has provided a ton of support in the platform solution architecture and data engineering and MLOps perspective. And then also very closely, again, mentioning with our collaboration with faculty, their Frontier computational twin platform is what hosts the IDS system and the family of machine learning algorithms that support it. I'll just move past this. So, when thinking about the IDS system, it's something that gets me very excited, and the child in me kind of makes me think that, am I fulfilling this vision of, when I think back to if I were to tell 5-year-old me what working at the intersection of artificial intelligence, life sciences looks like, I think part of me would imagine that this is what my job would look like. When really it feels much closer to this. And I think the stock image that I selected, I don't think it made it into the final version, but what I meant to show was an example of an MSL closely collaborating with a physician, overviewing some recent clinical data. And the idea being that the bleeding edge I thought would look like one thing, but I was when I discussed kind of the human elements of trying to drive innovation with a relatively simple technology, but so much effort going into collaborating with stakeholders, trying to understand their hang-ups and biases and their ways of working and how to really embed it. And I found myself kind of frustrated, and my manager said to me, he chuckled, and he said, this is what the bleeding edge of innovation looks like. Part of it's the fancy technology, but so much of it is just working with people and humans and trying to get them to change how they work. And the way that we innovate clinical development is very similar to the way that we try and innovate clinical care and clinical practice. It's about developing a fantastic product at its heart, whether it's a novel drug or a novel AI program, and using data and evidence and various other motivations to try and compel the end user to do something differently and evolve their ways of working, hopefully for the better. So with that in mind, I want to close with emphasizing the human element as part of the core philosophy of how Novartis approaches AI. As I mentioned, change management and the human element is paramount in driving innovation. Here you see an illustration of the 10-20-70 rule. 10% of the impact from innovation comes from the product itself, 20% from the surrounding data and technology environment, but more than double the impact of the previous two layers combined is the culture, the people, and the processes, the human elements. The human element is it's been shown time and time again that what stalls innovation is very rarely the technical performance of the product or data limitations. It's absolutely on the people, which is why Novartis is so embracing of a human-first mindset, augmentation of natural human intelligence with machine artificial intelligence. So we're actively democratizing AI across the entire organization. If you think from a user-based perspective, the tip of the pyramid being those strategic AI pillars, the next level down, a series of custom agents geared towards various business teams and processes, and then kind of the foundation of the pyramid, nurturing grassroots innovation through our self-service and citizen AI tools like our internal GPT and Microsoft Copilot. So it's, again, making sure that the marriage between human and artificial intelligence permeates the entire organization, and we believe that this is what will fundamentally usher in the next era of AI-enhanced clinical trials. So with that, I want to thank you.